Welcome to another edition of Talk City Greensboro, produced by GTN, featuring interviews and events happening around town. It's an easy way to stay in the know while you're on the go. Subscribe to Talk City on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or SoundCloud so you can keep up with what's going on in Greensboro city government. I'm your host, Josh Johnson, and alongside me, my good friend, the man at the controls, Mr. Devin Smith.
Hey, how you doing, Josh?
I do well. I hope you are.
I'm doing fine.
Good.
What's up, Greensboro? We wanted to thank you for listening to our conversations over the last week. We hope you enjoyed our first episode dedicated to Black and African American History Month. So this week we will continue celebrating by talking to one of the most vocal advocates for the minority community, especially Blacks and African Americans. We have with us Councilwoman Sharon Hightower. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How's everybody?
Good. Thanks for coming to the show.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Great time to have me back.
So something that people talk about a lot is having representation at the table, having people that look like you doing things that you may want to do. And with that being said, how significant is it for us to be in a time right now where we have a Black woman as our vice president?
Oh, it's an awesome time. We've broken the glass ceiling. So we now will no longer be held back for anything. You can't say there's nothing that we can't do. Vice president, our next goal is president. We are women of the world that can conquer the world, particularly Black women. Mm-hmm. We've been strong women all our lives, from the times of slavery. We've run households. We've taken care of everything that goes on in our world. And we're relied on. Our men relied on us. Our children relied on us. This is just our time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in Greensboro, is that what you want to continue to be, the representation for African American community and equity, especially for MWBE?
Well, particularly for MWBE, but especially for Black women. I think Black women have done so much that has been really not chronicled over time, that we've not gotten credit for many things. We kind of, even though we're the strong matriarchs in many capacities, we oftentimes are the quiet storm. Mm-hmm. And like I say, it's our time. But yeah, I love my African American people. I'm Black 100%, 365 days of the year. And I know what it's like to face discrimination and inequity. And it's time that we're treated equal, we're treated fair, there's justice, whether it's in our economics, our wages, and we have to take a stand against that. And somebody does. And, oftentimes I say, if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. And too many times decisions have been made for Black people without even, engaging us. Mm-hmm. Things happen, rules are made, ordinances are made, and we say, how did that happen? And somebody comes along and says, oh, but don't you like it? Well, you never asked me. So how do I like it?
You asked me now.
After it's done.
Right.
You know what
absolutely.
I mean? So, we have to stand up and be heard. Mm-hmm. And I hope I'm one of those voices. We got lots of voices in our community.
Absolutely.
But I just want to be one of those voices that comes in the room. And I'm the person oftentimes that when I do come in the room, people go, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Here she comes. Well, you know what she's going to talk about. She's going to talk about MWBE and, she's going to talk about inequities in the Black community. You look at our housing, you ride through East Greensboro, and the district that I represent is about 70% African American. Mm-hmm. And it's troubling when you go down some of those streets and they still don't have sidewalks, even just to get us out of the street. Mm-hmm. The housing is insecure. Our wages are low, but poverty is high. Yeah. And it is pretty much our demographic that is impacted by that, the Black demographic, when you look at the numbers. Even though we are not the majority of the population, we are the majority of poverty that's impacted the greatest, okay? We're still in a society where we're still a minority, but we have the majority of the problems. And that has to change. It's to change at the local level, the state level, the federal level. So Kamala's giving us hope at the federal level. We've got state legislators like Senator Robinson, who is advocating for African-American community. And then, there's me and others that have come before me. So I'm not the only one,
Absolutely.
We have, Councilwoman Yvonne Johnson, who was our first African-American mayor in the city. I mean, she broke a ceiling.
Yeah.
And so we know those things can be accomplished.
Absolutely, absolutely. And with that being said, you said something that, when you walk in the room that people feel like, uh-oh, here comes Miss Hightower, right? And what is it like being that type of champion? Because I know sometimes we have to have those people who are going to say it over and over and over again, even when sometimes people, they may not like it. They may not feel like hearing it at the time. But what is it like to continue to fight for those things regardless of the time, regardless of whether it's the forum that someone feels like dealing with it that day, but being consistent in that fight?
Well, key word, consistent. Never change the narrative, okay, until you've changed the whole culture of the problem. You have to walk in a room and be consistent about the message, all right? And the message is we have not been treated as fairly as our counterparts, our white women counterparts, our white men counterparts, and so, you have to continue to put it in their face. Because you can talk about it once or twice and it's like, oh, okay, I hear you. But no, you've got to continue the fight until the change is made. And so what you want is when you do walk in that room, people say, I've heard your message. I hear you. And I'm committed to helping you change. And we need that help. We got to all do this together. There's no question about that. All right. But sometimes you have to just be that squeaky wheel in the room that puts it out there. And you can't be afraid to do that. I'll be very honest. Sometimes it's kind of disheartening. You think about when you're in a space. But then, if you're doing it for the right reason, you have to keep on going with that, And I will tell you that even last Tuesday night at a council meeting, I got an email from a lady who said, I appreciate what you said about even the impacts of certain fees and fines economically in your community, because sometimes people don't consider that. So when you hear things like that, you know that you're going down the right path. And I'll tell y'all something. Race. We talk about race, but people don't like to talk about race. Race is the big elephant in the room that everybody tries to step around. But if you know about an elephant, sooner or later, you can't step around, okay? You cannot step, you cannot, right? So when you're in that space and you say, listen, this is a racial problem. There's systemic racism. We have to deal with this. Black people have been faced with this for hundreds of years. It's not just Black History Month. Yes, we appreciate the honor of the month, shortest month in the year, but it is a problem that Blacks have faced since the 1700s, okay? And so we have to, unfortunately, talk about it until it's solved, until it's over, until I can walk in a space and everybody's just happy and go lucky. I don't hear from businessmen. They're getting work, taking care of their families, ride through our communities. There's, nice housing, nice neighborhoods, sidewalks for people to walk on. I mean, stores that people can shop at. They're making good money, living wages. Those things have not yet been accomplished in the Black community. And so we have to make sure that people are aware of that. It's nice to go in a room and play nice. Sure, play nice. But you know what they say about nice? Nice guys finish last. And we're tired of finishing last.
And so something that you said, race is an issue that some people may shy away from in the topic. It almost seems like some people are still uncomfortable talking about it, in the sense that it's not that we want to ignore it. It's just that how do we have that conversation with each other, and maybe that I don't offend you, or maybe you don't offend me. But maybe if we change our perspective about us being offended about something, and just understanding that this is my truth, and whether you see it from that way, because you may have a different perspective because of, an extraordinary amount of variables could change that.
Absolutely.
But if you just, I want to understand your truth, and you can understand my truth, and maybe somewhere in between is the solution to the problem. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of what, celebrating the people from that we celebrate, the major accomplishments from African Americans in our community. That's where if we can look back and see how they accomplished those things, that maybe we could do some of these things today in our time to correct even more injustices.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it's interesting. It's when you're encountering white people, let's just say it. We're more comfortable in their spaces than they are comfortable in our spaces. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like the appearance of us creates some uneasiness. Why does my skin color cause you pause? That's the problem right there. First of all, because you made an assumption about me as soon as I come into a space, as if I have something different to project.
Yeah.
When many times I don't. My thinking is the same as your thinking. My concerns, I want the same things you want for my family that you want for your family. So why is that such a big problem between us? And so then we need to lay those cards on the table. What is it about me that you're afraid of? Just as looking at me, I've never opened my mouth. I've never done anything, but you're always uneasy already. Oh, I wonder what she's going to say. I wonder what she's going to, yet when the mouth is open, we're very articulate, educated people that we come to the table with the same qualities. Okay, that others are in the room with. But it's unfortunate that we have to talk about it and make it an issue and a topic and a subject before really we can move beyond anything. Mm-hmm. I talk about MWBE, Minority Women Business Enterprise. Most of the time I'm talking about black men, because the whole thought is if you're a black business person, you're inferior to the white man. Your quality of work is not the same. Yet, I tell people, look back in history. We built the White House as slaves, the Capitol. Oh my God, can you imagine what that took? Knowing how to put that building together, those measurements, the pyramids. Let's go back. So black people have got some of the smartest brains around. Yet they get discounted, the greatest.
Yeah.
And we have to always prove who we are and what we can do. That has to change. But that system has been built over time. Mm-hmm. You hear about institutionalized racism, systemic racism, basically. And that system was designed to treat us inferior. And we can't really break that system until the people who designed it break it. Black people didn't create that system. So we have to have that honest conversation and commitment from our white counterparts to say, you know what, you are my friend, you are my equal. Yeah. And I want you treated that way. And you will be. And I will no longer go along with the status quo.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if people want to reach out to you, support any initiatives like Love My Block, Give Back, or ask for assistance, what's the best way to do that?
I always just tell people, call me. I'm available by phone. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I get 100, 150 emails a day, and I have good intentions. I read them, and I go, okay, I'll get back to that person and read the next one.
That's a lot, though.
But, I try to be very accessible. to my constituents. I spend a lot of time riding the streets of my district, just looking at the conditions of things and thinking about how can I change, how can I make it better, which is why I Love My Block came along. Just riding through, seeing some of the, the conditions, of the houses and the neighborhoods, and they don't have grass. I mean, who doesn't have grass in your yard to come home to?
Yeah.
And so we need to love ourselves a little bit more, love our block. And we can come together and help each other clean your streets. And, so I've gotten some cooperation from my city departments around this initiative. It's not just where the city goes in and cleans it up, but it's where we go in. And I believe in engagement and having community at the table. Yeah. I'm not going to come in and do it for you. Tell me how you want it done for you. Okay? Mm-hmm. So, we can love ourselves and love our block. I absolutely love the initiative. It seems kind of, a small, program. And people think, oh, I need something different. Yeah, you do. You need to get living wages, and I fight for that. You need to improve, your family status. Yeah, I fight for that. Mm-hmm. But sometimes just starting right there at the ground.
That's right. Right.
And that's how we build.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
give Councilwoman Hightower a call.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, 336-317-4953. It's on. I will tell you. Now, I will be very honest. I'm not a morning person.
Okay.
Please don't call me before 9 o'clock.
I can understand that.
I think a respectable time to call people is after 10, right?
I would, maybe. I mean, the weekends, maybe after, after 11.
Well, thank you so much for coming and just giving us a piece of your mind and just talking to us, and we really appreciate it.
Well, again, thank you so much for having me, for even asking my opinion. As y'all know, I got a lot of opinions. So thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Well, we
appreciate you all doing this.
Yeah, really come back anytime.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'd love to. Thank you.
Stay tuned in weekly by subscribing to Talk City Greensboro on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. And don't forget, you can download Talk City from SoundCloud.
That's all we have for this week. Thank you for tuning in to Talk City. Be sure to watch GTN, your official source for news and information about the city of Greensboro. GTN is available on Spectrum Channel 13,
AT&T UVerse Channel 99,
and North State Channel 31.
GTN also streams live on Roku and the city's website
at greensboro-nc.gov. Have a good one.
Take care.